Joint meeting between the Town Council and the Public Safety Committee. It is 11:32. We are at the Bay Oaks, 2731 Oak Street, the Bay Oaks property. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, yeah.
Careful, warned you.
Yeah, they're good. Just to let everyone know, I have another appointment that I cannot miss at 1 o'clock, so if I get up to leave a little early, that's why. So we'll start this meeting off for the Public Safety Committee. Dawn, Madam Chair. Microphone.
Do I have to say my name? Dawn Thomas, Public Safety Committee, Chair. The reason we called this meeting was really because we know we're an advisory committee, and we feel like in the last 18 months since the hurricane, our actions, we really don't have anything that we're being advised on. And we want to be helpful. We've got a good group of people, and the time being right now, honestly, is just a waste of our time to meet on these meetings because we're not getting any issues or any direction from the town. And so we would like to get your guidance, your advice, any things that you would like us to work on. Do you want us to be 100% advisory? Do you want us to be an action committee? Because we do fall on both levels. Currently, you've asked us to go check out the sidewalks and see if there's anything that's a hazard on that. That's really the only thing we've got going on. So I'm going to start there, and
Dawn, would you introduce the members of your committee?
I'll have them go around, go through it. We'll start with Jim.
Hi, I'm Jim Nickel.
Get a microphone, there you go.
Jim Nickel.
Dan Blanchett.
Heidi Youngworth.
Ron Bennock.
And we're missing Jim, and I always pronounce this, I want to say Beaujolais, but that's not, it's Greek, and Kieran Farrell.
Okay.
So that's where we're at. We're just looking for some direction and guidance. And you can,
We get a great report each month from the fire.
Mike.
Yeah, we get a great report each month from the fire district and from the sheriff's office. So they kind of keep us appraised of the kind of public safety issues that they're seeing on the island. And we have an opportunity to interact with them and provide them some of our thoughts on areas that they might need to focus on, where some issues we might be seeing. And we don't feel like, I don't think that any of that ever finds its way up much to the rest of you. Dan, the mayor is our liaison, so in that respect, he's at most of our meetings and he hears it. But I guess as a committee, we don't feel like, okay, we've got this information and it's not going anywhere for the most part. So, and should it? I mean, sometimes it's not particularly dramatic, the information, but it's kind of interesting to understand and know what's going on the island on a public safety basis.
Go ahead.
You want me to start?
Sure. You look like you're ready.
Well, I've been giving this some thought. I watched the last meeting. I thought it was excellent. And I would just say, I hope you remain an advisory and an action committee. I think it's a great committee. I think it's a critical committee, given what we're going through post-Ian. And just off the top of my head, as I was watching the meeting, I started to make a list of things I'd love to see the Public Safety Committee intricately involved in the community policing contract and those negotiations with the Sheriff's Department. Obviously, having Jim as a member of the committee and his background as a former police officer and law enforcement official, also being on the fire board helps. But I think having that Public Safety Advisory Board input into what the responsibilities of the community policing officers are and how they interface with the island and what their charge is, how much they should be involved in traffic control, how you want them to interact with business. I mean, how do you build that into a contractual relationship? I know Frankie and Andy have their hands full, and to have your input on that, I think would be extremely helpful. I see all these crosswalks that the county is responsible for, and I'm not sure what their timeline is. Maybe Andy or Frankie could enlighten us a little bit on that, but we still obviously need real signage there. I just was praising the mayor and the Public Safety Committee for their work on the Linnell crossing with the beautiful blinking lights and the voice-activated system there. And it's a great crosswalk. We used to have 2 or 3 on the south end, and we just have that one. And the lines need to be repainted. There needs to be signage at all these crosswalks. We need to prioritize which crosswalks. Those electric blinking lights that really tell the traffic, particularly the tourists who don't know our system, to warn them to stop, I think is spectacular. I'd love to see more of those. I thought the county was obligated to spend X amount of money to help us with the crosswalks. I think interfacing with the county on that would be great. And that goes along with signage. Just my pet project for the month has been the Margaritaville Crescent Street intersection there, encouraging people to take the Margaritaville pedestrian walkover. That walkover, there really shouldn't be pedestrians crossing there at all unless it's some unique situation, because that just slows traffic. But there's no signage there. And I did a bunch of Facebook stuff this last week, and a lot of people didn't even know that was public. People didn't realize there were elevators there. People didn't realize the importance of using the crosswalk and helping traffic flow. And I don't know if we could partner with Margaritaville and the town to develop some signage. And I don't know how we'd obviously want to make sure Margaritaville is comfortable with the signage, but it could really help, especially during tourist season, to let people know that that's an option and encourage people to go in that direction. I heard you guys talking about the passing lane, or what people think is a passing lane on Estero Boulevard. I mean, somebody's going to get killed when people are crossing at a crosswalk and someone's passing somebody, not knowing that there's someone in the crosswalk. And when they pass, as you all know, they're going 40, 50 miles an hour sometimes. It's insane. And there's no signage for that. And I know the sheriff's department can only be so many places at so many times, but maybe some signage. I love to hear in your meetings, have the fire department explain what their reports were that week, what calls they got. Same with Captain Lawler. What calls did they get? Where are they getting complaints? What businesses are attracting calls, and what kind of crime, what kind of theft, burglary, just kind of every that kind of minutia I think is really interesting to people. So I think you all have a tremendous role. You all have great backgrounds to continue to serve the community. So I'm sure there's a litany of other things as well, but those are the things that came to my mind.
I think it's important to go back and review some of the minutes and some of the stuff before the storm, because there were a lot of things that were talked about. There was the shelters, there was the Code Blue stuff. There was, back then we all know there was a lot of hesitation to want to do any of that kind of stuff, but it was all very important. In the past, as far as I know, there's been no allowable interaction between committee members and base staff. Base is out there every day. They're seeing things. They're seeing what could be fixed, what can't be fixed. I think having a direct line of communication to the head of base to see what they're seeing, because they see it every day. We don't. They could help give direction on some things that could certainly benefit to what we're talking about here. But I think going back and look at some of those minutes and some of the things that were on the agendas back then, they were never solved.
Right. I know a long time ago we did organize the crosswalks. We put them in a valuable order from like 1 to 10 or whatever it was.
Yep.
So that we should have in minutes. Unfortunately, my paperwork has all washed away, so I don't have it.
Yeah, I think, to the Linnell point, the county's not opposed to putting more of those up if we can show them the data that it's required or that it's needed. Because we had talked about Fairview Isles crosswalks, we had talked about other crosswalk locations that were just as busy or busier than Linnell, and there was a need for it, but they needed to see the data. So I think getting information from the fire district, because they were very, very helpful in getting that Linnell crosswalk. Without their data, we would have probably not gotten it. And the county's not opposed to doing things like that as long as we can show them there's a need for it. There's a reason why it needs to be there. I know that they don't like to see the blinking crosswalk light at every single crosswalk, which I get that, but I think more than just Linnell has to be out there. and using that data. And again, I think working with Base and those guys, I shouldn't keep calling them Base Neighborhood Services. I think they could be helpful in using their data as well of what they see, whether it's bike accidents, whether it's, so those are the big things for me. The trolley stops. I know we talked about trying to do some sort of call systems there with, I think it was Cold Blue is what you guys were looking at, if I remember correctly. That never really went anywhere. I just think with new direction and new staff, I would revisit some of those things for sure. Then I can't even remember them all off the top of my head. It's been so long, but there were several. I know we talked a lot about bikes and, lights and those kind of things, but crosswalks are very important. The sidewalks, I know we talked about, you mentioned on Monday, the app. And then what was the other app he was working on? He's not here, but
That was for the hurricane.
The hurricane, yes.
Yeah, so if people decide to stay in their homes because you can't enforce them
Right.
and make them leave, that it would be an opt-in, and they need to they'd use this app to let the sheriff department know and the town know that, I live at 123 Main Street and I will be at the house. I am not leaving, so that after the storm, it's the first responders can go to those houses or those places of business or wherever they're at immediately and know that there's somebody there, whereas somebody else has said, I'm not going to be home, that they won't be there. And he's developing that right now.
I wonder if something like that could be, we got that email. I think we all got it. There's a list of 15 properties or something that they laid out that was doing work without a permit, and they were worried about safety issues. It came in the form of a mail. It was maybe I'm the only one that got it. If I got, I'll send it to Amy. Huh? It was a scanned letter that was actually sent to the town.
Right.
And then there was a bunch of.
I know I got it.
You did get it? Yeah.
Got it for-
Oh, okay. So I didn't know if everybody got it or not, but that's something that has to be looked at too. I think public safety aspect. If someone's doing something they're not supposed to do, your neighbors, pools that aren't covered. I mean, there's so many things that need to be addressed, but there's a lot of it that's outside of our control. We can give all the data we want, but if nobody's going to fix it or nobody's going to do it. But I think a key thing is working with staff, working with neighborhood services. What they see every day is the stuff that we can really. Then we could give you some more direction. Whether they're seeing
So
whatever it is.
Don, I've got a question. Is it that your information's not getting to us, or our direction to you is not getting there, or is it a combination of both? Where's your frustration?
I think it's a combination of both. I just feel like we're not getting any direction. And I know people are very busy. And if Dan's not there, we don't, Dan's our lifeline, really. He tells us what's going on. And so it was a perfect example this last meeting when he wasn't there. We had no idea, even though if we watch town council meetings, we may not know some of the stuff or you miss an important piece of information. So we're not 100% sure of what's going on. And then we sit there and say, well, should we be focusing on this? Is this a waste of our time? Is something already happening? Perfect example is the buildings, the unsafe buildings. And I know that you have a plan, but I didn't know the exact, we couldn't have a discussion about it that was intelligent because we didn't know where you guys were at in the process. And you're just ahead of the schedule. So, if he's not there, we don't get enough information, I guess is the best thing. And even though we might watch all the town council meetings, we do miss some things and we may not know.
I think as a council as a whole, we've gotten away. I remember before the storm, we would give updates of, what was discussed. And as you said, I think maybe there's so much going on, but that's not an excuse. I can't remember the last time any of us really kind of gave an update on whatever committee we're talking about as to what was talked about. So I think we need to for sure bring that back because for a while there, it seemed like it was just using me because it's not me that should be giving you all the direction, right?
Right.
It's council should be giving you
Right.
direction, and without talking like we're talking, it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
So maybe we just that's part of the thing we need to do for all committees is just give an update as to the last meeting. Doesn't
Even if the council or the advisory committee people aren't there to give the update, then we as liaison
yeah.
step in.
I
and do
mean,
it.
I like it better when someone from the committee themselves
Yeah,
come
me
and
too,
gives the
but-
update, but because
We before on the LPA, we used to have the next council meeting. We'd say, okay, can
Yeah.
you be there? If not, who's your backup? And then we just rotate so everybody gets a chance to interact with council. But just, I don't, I know everybody can't be there every time, but if you, in your meeting, say, okay, next council meeting, Jim, can you go speak on our behalf? Just give an update. And it doesn't have to be a 15-minute presentation, just a boom, boom, boom. This is what we're thinking. This is what we're working on. What do you think?
Yeah.
And I think that'll keep us better informed to what's going on.
Well, things change, week to week, month to month. It's like,
Right.
what was an issue this month is not necessarily an issue the next month. It's already been corrected, so trying to stay ahead of it.
Well, like one of the issues, like I was going to bring up, we're all hearing about the golf carts and the mopeds and the motorcycles on the sidewalk. And then I just happened to see on the town website, I think it was on Facebook, they put signage up, which I had no idea. I'm like, oh, that was obviously decided.
They also arrested people the past couple of days.
Okay, that too.
And gave out tickets.
So, those are the kinds of things that we've talked about, like what can we come up with a solution to help mitigate that? And, so we didn't know that was going on. And is there something else that we need to be doing as a safety committee to come up with solutions to help with that? Or is it not wanted? Is it unwelcome advice if you're already handling it on your own? We don't want to make more work and go, hey, we came up with this great idea, and then you say, well, really, we don't have any. We're not going to do that. I don't know if I'm being clear.
Dawn, who is your staff liaison? Jason, Jason's a wonderful fellow, but are you the best person for that? In other words, should somebody from Neighborhood Services be that person who's kind of on the front lines? Go ahead. Andy.
He's pointing over there.
I'm not trying to tell people what to do. Jason's wonderful, but he's just not. Yeah, go
Yes,
ahead.
go ahead.
Yeah.
I always enjoy these joint meetings. I really do. I need to follow in the order on a lot of this stuff. Everything was my responsibility. It's not necessarily the council. When I got here, there was a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. I think we all agree there was a lot of stuff. Sometimes when things come up, we react quickly. We don't have 30 days or 3 weeks or 4 weeks to wait for a committee meeting. My apologies. We will be more cognizant of that. Tom's moving into a different role for us to be able to work with the safety committee and to be able to work with the Lee County Sheriff's Office. Spoken with Dave Harner at length about the signs. We're not getting them anytime soon. It's an $8 million countywide project. They're waiting for FEMA to approve. We did get the Linnell crossing out of those conversations. That was quick, but that was already coming up out of the ground.
Well, that wasn't completed before the
Right.
storm, so it didn't
Right.
fall within FEMA funding.
Correct. So that's why that was done. But we continue to work, but they have said, I'm like, we need the warning signs, the speed limit signs, all the signs that you're responsible. We did a sign project town-wide in less than 2 months, and they still are waiting to get a few traffic signals up over by the hospital. So, there's a lot of give and take, and we work constantly try to get Dave Harner and the county to, I'm not casting dispersions on Dave, that's not my point, but there's just a lot of moving parts sometimes, but we do need to do a better job as a staff to come to this committee. And I think Jason's been given several different responsibilities just since I've been here. I'm kind of that guy. Where's everybody fit, right? We've got all the parts it seems fitting right now. So Tom's going to be, taking that lead role to attend the meetings to make sure that he's my conduit, vice versa between all of us. That's a big responsibility. So I appreciate anything that you can share with him or me or what we need to do to make sure that we're all more successful.
That's a perfect example that you already did a sign. You went, you had staff do an analysis of all the signs that need to be up, that need to be created. You've already submitted to the state. We didn't know that, and that's the kind of thing that we would. And I want to say, then we're having two people do the same thing, and if we would contact you. If it was me on your end, I'd be frustrated going, listen, we already did this. You need to, stay in your lane. We already handled it. So that's the kind of thing we'd love to know. That way we're like, okay, they're handling it. And then we can get that out to the community because people do want to know that. And they can work with the POI to say, hey, listen, these are things that are in the works. We haven't forgotten about it. These things are in the works, and please note that staff has already handled it. Signage is coming up, and we don't have a time frame because we're waiting for FEMA funding.
Yeah, I think to your point, Andy, sometimes things are moving so fast that it's been handled and you need to just you move on to the next thing. It's on to the next thing, and you kind of forget about it. But I like hearing that you're going to have Tom. Yeah, that he's going to be there interacting. And there was another thing that was talked about before the storm, having communication with our neighborhood services to be able to communicate directly with Lee County Sheriff's Office on a certain channel that's out of the other channel. It's outside my realm. You and Frankie probably know more about it than that, and that never really went anywhere. I know that Public Safety Committee was looking into cost and, what radio could work with the fire district and with Lee County Sheriff's Office to, if they see something, they can contact them right away. They don't have to call 911 or they don't have to call a non-emergency number. And that just kind of fell by the wayside when the storm hit. So I think we need to relook at a lot of the things that we were working on before the storm, because I bet 50% or more of them they just fell off the vine.
The communications issue, I think, is really important. And I think it's a matter of working through the Lee County Communications Center with the fire and sheriff so that our people could be equipped with a radio, have a channel that could get into the dispatcher, or a channel they could flip over to if the sheriff was coming to them or needed to talk to our staff in the field. So I think I'm surprised we don't have that already. It's something we certainly should be working towards, I think. And I can't imagine they wouldn't appreciate the opportunity to be able to interact with city staff at base or whoever is in the field already ahead of them. They like to know what's going on before they get there if they can, or they like to know about problems that are developing before they get too big.
And I know, yeah, Frankie, go ahead.
Hi, for all that know me, I'm the compliance and operations director. We already have plans in the work. We already have radios that have been approved by council, not only for the town, but so they would be able to use as well. The town has a dedicated channel with Lee County already. We'll be able to, they monitor that. And there's certain protocols, just like that we'd have to address if it was an emergency and non-emergency. But just having that monitored, both by EMS, fire, and police, that'll greatly help us out in the field as well.
I think so.
Frank-
that you're doing that.
Frankie, before you sit down, Tom, you've kind of restructured what Neighborhood Services or BASE does. Do you want to just talk a little bit about the restructuring and how you've changed things?
Sure. So before Andy and I got here, it was parking enforcement and guys driving around in buggies. And since we kind of got here and met with Tom was here. Not for very long, but we share the same ideals. We knew that it did not have to be a parking thing. As the council knows, we were going sometimes 25, 30 complaints a week for parking fines, this and that. We're currently, last 4 months, been running at zero. We've had record revenues being brought in. So when you have stuff like that happening, something's working right.
So don't skip over that, Frankie. So you've had record revenues coming in for parking with no complaints about tickets written 5 seconds before the
Correct,
meter
because
goes up.
of this man sitting right here.
Right, exactly.
So
But don't
Tom
skip.
Yazzo is taking
don't-
it upon
don't
himself
skip
to.
over that, yeah.
We won't. We talked about it one day, and he said, "Hey, I hope you don't mind." I was like, "Mind? Why would I mind?" He actually reaches out to people and says, "Hey, you got a ticket. It's your obligation to pay. Can we work something out?" And here's the parameters. And so he's recouped so much more money than we would have ever had before, just by his demeanor, which is very low key but to the point. And I tell you, a little drop of honey gets an awful lot of flies sometimes, and he has definitely done that. And so that is why he has taken that department, and we gotten away from the BASE moniker. We call them community services because that's what they're at, beach to bay. That's our philosophy. So instead of just going up in the buggy all down and up and down the beach, they're actually going from the beach down into little districts, up and down the streets. There are eyes and ears for people that need help, assistance. They see things that don't look right. They write it down. They report to our code compliance staff. They report to it to Public Works or to one of the supervisors or directors so we can take immediate action on it. So it's really opened up the whole realm of what we can provide the city. We don't have a police force. We probably don't need a police force at this present time. But aside from that, we don't want a bunch of vigilantes running out there either. These men and women are not that. They're reaching out to the public. They're helping people that were stranded, needed gas, help people that are broke down. One person was a little disoriented. They found out where they needed to be and got them back home. This is what community services means. You're in the community, you're providing that service of being just the eyes and ears of the town that can't be out there. So they've really kind of taken that and run with it, and helped not only Public Works, but also our code team, which brings me to the next point is we've now restructured our code staff that are going to be going out. We've hired a couple of new people, certified people, which is a big deal for the town to have a certified code officer. When you stand in front of a magistrate, you know what you're bringing to the table, and they know what you're bringing to the table. So it helps a lot. It gives us a little bit more provenance moving forward. They're now going to be under Tom and his assistant manager, also moving forward. So we're going to have the city clerk on one side and code and compliance on this side of the town hall trailer, working in unison, helping each other out in the field. And I believe that it's going to give a little bit stronger presence to this town as we build back.
So I just have a question, Frankie. So if you look at Estero Boulevard, and like literally just the other day, somebody on a moped was given a ticket. I believe somebody in a golf cart was given a ticket on the sidewalk. Or motorcycle, whatever it was. But I mean, how does that communication go to let LCSO know what's happening on Estero Boulevard, what they need to be watching out for, the people that are using the center as the passing lane? How does that communication all work?
Currently, it's not, only because we don't have the means for that. The radios are not here yet. But once they're established, that will open up that channel. They'll be able to reach out to, hey, we have a potential hazardous or life-threatening situation. There's always deputies here. It's just trying to get them to the right situation. So we're not talking about the ones that are assigned to the intersections. Those are usually off-duty or volunteer. There are active deputies here all the time. So it's just a matter of getting them in the right place at the right time. Like you said, the people that were pulled over. Andy and I, we kind of both saw that on our way home one night. So they're here. They're doing their job. I think the whole radio network is going to allow my team to do even a better job and help the citizens of this town. So I think as we expand that, the radios were originally purchased to keep key town staff involved during an emergency situation. The need to expand that to allow community services to have a bite of that as well, I think will greatly improve what we can offer our citizens.
You know, and the other question I have too is, you know, with crosswalks, just because there is a crosswalk there does not mean pedestrians don't have to look both ways. I mean, and they don't. There's a crosswalk and they just go. And so I don't know if there's signage, if there's like putting the responsibility on them. I mean, I know we have to, you know, lean towards crosswalks, but how does that all, and jaywalkers, I mean, running between the cars all the time. And
unfortunately, we honestly do not have the right to enforce on Estero. We can point out, we can make suggestion, but enforcement on Estero, being a county road, has to be coming from the LCSO. That's just the jurisdiction of it. On city streets, on beach accesses, on the downtown area that belongs to us, we definitely can reach out. And believe you me, you know how I preach education. Tom takes that even to the 10th degree. His staff have worked greatly with people out there saying, no, this is the reason why we do this. And I think sometimes when you explain something to somebody, you take that time to do that, the light bulb kicks on. It's not going to happen to everybody, but it does happen. And they've gone to the nth degree on trying to educate. We are going to really start ramping up helping and advising LCSO where we see them needed. We just weren't in that mode, well, financially being able to go down that road yet after the storm. But as slowly those funds start coming in, we can give them the tools that they need to be out in the community.
Tom, Andy, would you mind if Tom came up and just introduced himself, and then maybe you could share a few things that you've seen that the Public Safety Committee could assist you on and your team on to.
Absolutely. My name is Thomas Yazzo. I'm a retired police officer out of New York. Did 22 years on the job up there. Moved down here about 3 years ago full time. I closed my company, which I had after that. I had a private security business in Manhattan, working for Homeland Security for many years. So I'm down here full time. Took this job last March. It's about a year in a week. So when I came in, I saw that we were a different kind of creature here. When I took this job, I thought we were here to kind of be Baby Baywatch. Go out and talk to people, you know, be around, save a duck, do, you know, do that's kind of what I thought. So when we came in, I realized that the focus was entirely on parking. We focused only on parking and fines. I found that to be in a touristy place. I never worked in a touristy place, but I wanted to. And I found that that wasn't going to work for us. So I tried changing it at that point. These gentlemen came in, they were hired, they bought into that vision. So we dug into that, and that's where we're at now. So as to the signage, you'll notice the new signs that are on the sidewalk, they don't say anything, we're going to beat you up. It says, warning, this is the ordinance, please don't do this. That's kind of what it's about. And the warning is the first word up there because I want people to understand it's not okay. And then when we do stop people, because we do stop people on there as well, we don't write the ordinance out, which we could, but we don't. A lot of times it's, hey, do you understand why we're not doing this? We don't do this because you can hurt somebody. Last year, 23 people were killed in New York City and Manhattan by e-bikes, by getting hit by them. And you see how fast they fly down the sidewalk. So we stop them. We do it safely. It's not always easy for the SO to stop them. We have a little bit more ability because we're on the RTVs. So we get up and get ahead of them. We try to follow them, see where they go safely, and then we stop them and explain it to them. So that's kind of what our goal is. And we do that on the beach as well. We have more signs coming about no vehicles on the beach. They just came in today. It takes some time to get all the stuff made. And the signs for the sidewalks, the permanent signs, are in process right now. So we're going to hit those in the major intersections coming from Margaritaville South. And we'll have some downtown as well.
Do you have you seen anything that the Public Safety Committee could help you and your team out with?
I would address having some neighborhood watches, to be very honest with you. I think that's a grand plan for this island. Having the community members kind of keep an eye open. It worked well in New York when I worked there. It worked very well because you have people, and I know you're going to have some people are going to be looking out their window every day with nothing better to do to make complaints. That's fine. We'll take those complaints. They do that already, but they call you guys. So if you can direct them over to us, I can at least take the complaint. I can vet it. If it needs to go to them and then to you, so be it. We'll move that way. But I speak to the captain and the major for the 3rd Precinct every day. I was on the phone this morning with Tim Lawler. So we talk about things that are happening, things that are going on the island, how best to address it. We had a couple cases where we had people who were in some of the buildings doing some pirate work, stealing wire and stuff. I sent that out to their detective division. We squared that away. So we started attacking it as best as we could, you know. So you guys live here too. You know it. You see it. And we see it going on all the time. The Neptune, we're working on the Neptune again with them. We're attacking them about getting fencing up because it's become a homeless hotel. They're having fires in the center and everything like that. The deputies now check it every day. We're pushing people out of those upper level homeless condos that they got going. We're moving them out of there, and that's for public safety in general. And I know we had shelters on the island. Those shelters are kind of gone now, for good or for bad. But we also don't want them making houses in abandoned buildings, so abandoned buildings. So that's what we're pushing on that as well right now.
We did do a neighborhood watch, so we've got contacts and everything. We launched that probably the year before the storm, so we'll resurrect it.
Yeah, that would be fantastic, and just put us into the loop so we can be there to help. Because no, I can't go down there and make an arrest anymore. That's not what our goal is. But at least I can get it on the radar for the 3rd Precinct, and I can also make sure we're paying attention to it, and we're good eyes and ears. We're good report writers. We've changed how we do our reporting now. We've created another incident report that we do incident reports on everything, including trip and falls, when we respond to those things. And then we take that and put it to PW, to the bosses, to PW, so they can go and take a look at the area where this happened. And if it's something we have to rectify quickly, we take care of that too.
So you're going to start coming to our meetings?
I am.
That'd be great.
Absolutely.
I think having you and the other two public safety agencies there is going to provide us a lot of input as to what's going on,
Absolutely.
and that'll help us maybe help with ideas, help council, really. It's, we're all here to try to serve the public. I think that will help.
I do have one idea. I want to, I'd like to research a golf cart lane that starts at Beach Baptist, because that's gone. We've got the land. You know, that's the super secret shortcut that if you live on the island, that's the way you go. You turn on Connecticut and you go the back, and you used to come out then by Red Coconut when the traffic was bad. But it'd be interesting if we did a test and created a golf cart designated lane. Mopeds could probably go on there as well, that we meander back through that neighborhood, hit Red Coconut, create a gravel lot lane, which is then when Seagate does develop it, it'd be interesting to say, part of the development, you have to give this back.
By the way, they're open to that.
Yep, okay. And then we hit, you go through there, then you hit Seagrape, and I know you're in negotiations with them, so allowing behind that building, there's enough room. Then you hit the library by the school, zip by there, Bay Oaks. Then we hit Town Hall, which is a big empty property. The Tops property is empty. The church that just went down. You get all the way almost to where Sandy Bottoms is. That's the only thing I couldn't figure out at that point. I got a little stalled out there. But I don't know. I was thinking, it'd be an interesting test.
Dawn, if I could, I think that's a brilliant idea, and I think I wouldn't restrict it just golf carts and electric bikes, but bikes as well,
Yeah,
because people are terrified to ride their bikes
Exactly.
there. Yeah.
Yes. And it would become if you live here, you would tell people this is the way you go. If your people are visiting, you'd have the map and say, take the golf cart lane if you're on the south end to get up north. It would eliminate some of the traffic. And
Jason, isn't there, I seem to remember there's already a map out there that was done for bicycles that it's already done.
it'd be great if we could add a little space.
So can we get that map to the Public Safety Committee for their next meeting? Because it's already done.
It'd be great.
Or,
We could kind of go through there and sort of
Lay it out.
lay out a plan.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Can't go
between
anywhere
a couple
without a plan.
houses. I mean, if you were on the south end and you knew that you could get up north in 15 minutes in a golf cart, it would just change a little bit of the dynamic.
Those golf cart rentals and sales would just
Yeah, I
go
know this is a
sky.
conflict of interest. But,
I'm not saying anything.
anyway, but that was just my idea. I mean, we've got so much free land right now. This is the time to test it. And I was even thinking if there was on the left-hand side of Estero, if there's a little more room, maybe there's a crossing for the golf cart. It goes across the way, and then we widen the sidewalk into the property, and it's over there. I don't know, but I'd love to see that map.
Just to be clear on that, that's going to be like a slow-moving vehicle type
Yes.
space, right?
Yes.
Not for pedestrians, for slow-moving vehicles. And I'm not saying pedestrians can't be on there,
Right.
but if
But
you're
the
going to have the
vehicle has the right of
crossover,
way. Yeah.
right? If you're going to have a crossover between the two, then we need to be conscious of that, which means that we're going to need an ordinance to protect people who get on that space and walk. That's the only thing. I'm just looking ahead of that, just because people get run over by golf carts and they get hurt then
Yeah.
too. So.
Well, I did have someone ask me the other day, and maybe this is a Nancy question. In Fort Myers, the golf carts and e-bikes can drive pretty much anywhere they want. They can drive on the sidewalks. They can kind of. But I get what their question was. Well, if I can go to Fort Myers, or I can go down Incorporated Lee County and drive on a sidewalk, why can't I do it on Lee County's Estero Boulevard sidewalk?
Because there's usually a designated area for golf carts only, and they're supposed to be street legal.
Well, I get that, but it was a question that I didn't have the answer to, and I wasn't.
It is true. They can go on the sidewalk in Fort Myers.
Yeah, they're definitely not street legal. I mean, you could drive from downtown all the way pretty much to Iona if you wanted to.
Well, I just know that in other communities, we have like designated areas where golf carts can operate, but then you can't take them beyond a particular road. Oftentimes, it's like a state highway. You can't cross over that. You have to stay within a confined area.
And is there any state statute about a bike lane is a bike lane? And they asked me that same question, and I don't know the answer to it. So if I can drive my
don't-
e-bike 25 miles an hour down the bike lane, why can't I drive my golf cart down the bike lane? And I don't know if there's laws or not laws
Yeah,
against
I
it.
don't
but
think that the bike lane itself is wide enough
Right.
for a golf court, but I mean, you do have multi-purpose trails.
Well, some
I
seem to
mean,
think
you might
it is.
morph into something
Right.
like that. That could be multi-purpose.
Well, if you think of like Gasparilla Island, they don't even have it's a sidewalk. It's actually just a path. So it's, like tread marks and everybody takes their golf carts on those. So they're never on the street and they're going up and down, so it's not this, you can gravel it. I mean, it's not,
You
but
can make it more distinctive.
yes.
Yeah.
But
I think that bike map that's already done, I think would be pretty helpful. It's out there. It's been out there for a while. So they were trying to do some study, if I remember. I don't remember all the details, but go from basically all through Lee County, and Fort Myers Beach was part of that trail.
But I think that if we came up with something that
Right.
was a plan
Yeah.
that we've always talked about this. We encourage bikes. We encourage, less cars, less traffic. You've got the golf
Right.
carts. These people are complaining about the south end again. We're back to season, and this would be one way that if you lived here, you want to get up to the north end to eat. You could have rickshaws on there. That's another thing. People on the bikes, the pulling people, rickshaws
A new
have a little
business.
business. Yeah, and that could go up and down those on electric bike.
May I-
This is a golden opportunity
Right.
because of what has happened to us.
Right.
If we had an engineer look the whole place, if we had an engineer look the whole situation over with that goal in mind, we might be surprised what we would be able to pull together as a plan. It may require some land acquisition, or you may get people who are willing to contribute a small segment of their land to allow for this kind of activity adjacent to the sidewalk.
Frankie, can you remind me tomorrow when we're with the R2P2 people, let's bring this up to them because they're the ones that are doing
Yes, and there's planning provisos in that plan to do just exactly what you're talking about, whether it's for the rickshaw, whether it's a gravel path, a running path. There's so much into that planning part of the R2P2 that we can do. It's another arm of a FEMA project. So it just kind of opened up to us, and they're going to be on site tomorrow. So this would be perfect to take them down to some of those sites.
So if we can have that for that tomorrow.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
I guess I want to urge a little caution because I did receive an email earlier, I don't know if everybody else did, about the increased car traffic in that neighborhood with people taking that as the back way to get up. So just be aware of that, I guess.
I think, though, if you did live on those back streets, I do know that people speed through there to try to get through that traffic.
ahead.
If you had a designated, it was like a path, and most people said, okay, you know what, I don't have to speed through here. I have a way to get all the way up. I think it would eliminate a lot of the issues that they're seeing right now. I mean, I've been on that, and people are running the stop sign because the goal is to see how many cars you can get ahead of
Right.
on a Stero.
Well, and I also think having a designated path, because we do have people that have figured out how to do this all on their lonesome, and they're running in people's yards and going all the way up. I mean, I see it all the time.
I was
So-
thinking about, Dan, you made the comment in the earlier meeting. I was listening about the trailer on Heavenly Biscuit. It's a very small piece of property. This is a perfect example for some of these properties that are so small that there's some kind of, I don't know if the city can do something for them because you can't really be billed on there. If there was a trailer on there for their business, then you've got this pathway that cuts through there. There might be some give or take that we can give.
Yeah, that all comes down to economics.
Yeah, I know.
Another issue that because season has really surprised us, I think, a bit with the traffic issues that we've been facing because we didn't expect it because we knew a large portion of our population wasn't going to be here. But they're coming from the mainland. They're coming over every day. So we have a lot of day trippers. Is that we would have almost a seasonal traffic flow change. In other words, particularly where right now the choke point is right at Margaritaville, where you make the big curve. And I know the county is planning to rebuild that road, and God help us all when that's underway. But at some point, if there's a transportation engineer involved in this that could say, well, we're going to institute the seasonal traffic flow modification to help move traffic through that area a different way, whether it's down Crescent and over and up Fifth and up off Bridge. That's the only way to get off the island. You can't go around anymore. And if you're going to go to the north end, you have to go under the bridge and cut over and come through downtown. I mean, there's just some things maybe an engineer could lay out for you and say, well, here's an option that might be helpful. You institute it when season starts. You kind of turn it off when season's over, so people would have more free flow of activity then. Until, of course, we're so busy in off season that there is no season anymore. It's off season.
Yeah, I think this roundabout's going to be an interesting, the dynamics are going to change once that's done. So
Right.
what we have today is not going to be what we have 2 years from now.
True.
And that starts in April, and it's an FDOT thing, and they did a presentation for us. They are calculating in season and non-season. And maybe if you'd like, I could have him come and do a presentation for your group as well about,
That would be great.
yeah, I'll contact.
Yeah, the Public Safety Committee had spent a lot of countless hours on that crosswalk and helping with the design, and it fell on deaf ears.
Yeah.
Just put it that way, unfortunately. It felt on deaf ears.
We did too. We felt like our comments fell on deaf ears as well. I just quick question for the procedure of your committee. Now that Tom will be attending, and you've got somebody from the sheriff's office and the police department, or I'm sorry, sheriff's department, do you get incident reports each week or each month from like where the burglaries were? I'd never heard about the Neptune before. I mean, all this sort of real on the ground stuff. When I first moved here, I was always fascinated when we was running for office that Dan was always talking about public safety, and I didn't understand. I was living on the south end. It's like, where are the public safety issues? And I run into Scott, got to know Scott Safford. He knew the underbelly of the island, like where all the bad stuff was going on.
Thanks, man.
And
He was there.
I'm not saying he was.
I'm not running for office.
I'm not saying he was responsible for it. He was just aware of it. But I guess my point is if
Get that detail.
but that kind of granular detail, I think, is very, like in a local newspaper, you see where the police calls are, you see it in the paper. A lot of people just turn to that page. I just think people would find it really interesting to see where the crime is, what the crime is, if there's crime, on a weekly or on a monthly basis, just to get a sense of where the fire runs are, what's going on, what's happening, what's town staff seeing on the ground. That kind of intel, I think, is very interesting to people, and it's interesting to me.
Well,
If I may, for the record,
understand though,
we don't get those reports either, by the way, from Lee County Sheriff's Office. We don't get anything from them.
yeah, I'm
2012 Avenue E is a lot different than 2024 Avenue E. I mean, it's,
One thing I noticed from LCSO on their website, before the storm, you could type in Estero Boulevard and it would bring up every event that LCSO responded to. Now you don't get that information anymore.
is that because of the hurricane or just LCO or? I mean, I used to do that too. I used to get an email you could click on the island and there'd be dots all over and you can click and see, burglary,
Yeah.
break-in, slip.
I don't know if they changed their website and you find it somewhere else, but, I've looked a couple of times and, not seeing what I used to see before the
Could
storm.
you guys try to find that? Could you guys try to look? I mean, I always thought it was beneficial because we could see what's going on by our hotel all the time. What
Yeah.
the incidents were, and I mean, I think that.
We can ask Sarah.
Yeah.
Because we do not get that type of detail.
Yeah,
The
they are
Fire
granular,
department gives us a little more detail, like they break it down. A fire might be electrical. They're running into a lot of electrical fires after the storm. Houses fired correctly. But on sheriffs, I know that there was an event at Times Square last week, and I had a few people call and ask if I knew what was going on, and I couldn't find any information anywhere of what happened.
That'd be good.
One of the things that I've noticed, I'm new to the committee, and one of the things that I've noticed is education. There's a lot of education that needs to happen to people that are on the island and visitors that are here. And I believe, Jason, at our next meeting, we're going to have the PIO there, and I believe that that's going to be a lot of help once we get that relationship with the PIO with the town. I think that'll help a lot.
One thing that I'd be interested in, not so much this year, but for next year, assuming there's going to be more people, whether they're visitors or more residents on the island, is we know that there's that choke point downtown from, pretty much Avenue E down to Margaritaville. Could you guys look at a study for maybe, I know when there's big, like in Vegas, or when you go to Mardi Gras, or when there's big sporting events, they put up barricades. I've heard good and bad both. There's a cost. There's a policing portion of it. Take a look at possibly looking into that, especially in that area.
So we have done that.
You have.
And the reason we can't is because there's too many driveways. It wouldn't make any sense. That's what we were told.
Okay. Wow. Interesting.
Because we wanted barricades from the base of the bridge to the first crosswalk to basically farm people exactly where we want you to cross. And then we wanted them from that first crosswalk by Times Square all the way down to, at that point, it was to Lani Kai, because they were running out. That's what we had asked for. And we were told, no, there was too many driveways.
Yeah. What about just in a micro section from Margaritaville down to the first or second drive? Is that feasible to even look at? I mean, those things work. I mean, especially, like I said, in New Orleans, man, you're not jumping over that thing because you.
We talked about a metal fence.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just to guide the people to go
Well, I mean,
that way.
down by where the Sandpiper, they've got those fluorescent green. Those things are out right now to corral people to not walk over there. So.
Yeah, pedestrian barricades have been used in a lot of different applications, not only just the standalones, the wire fencing, or would look like a metal fencing. You have to have cooperation. So we have to have cooperation on two sides. One, the public has to cooperate and not jump over those things. When we're talking about the new turnaround that was presented to us, and they're coming up with a vegetative barrier, is it going to be a little 1 gallon plant that you can buy at Home Depot in a little pot that they're going to plant there and take 3 years to get 3 feet high, or are they going to come through and actually put a barrier? And you all know that path of least resistance. If you see an opening in a bush, are you going to get 20 people flying through there? Is it actually going to be a physical barrier? We have the ability, as what we still have around here, to put up the plastic barriers as we move down. They almost look like a little guardrail type thing. That does keep kind of people in their lane, but again, without proper signage, without proper education and enforcement, those 3 items, you're not going to get those steers. I'm an old farmer from Wisconsin. Those steers to kind of go down that path. You kind of need that one bell cow to go first, and then everybody follows. And until you get a signage on the sidewalk, signage up above, this is the way we need to proceed, I think that all has to fit into whatever kind of plan or solution you're looking for.
For whatever reason, we begged the state when they were doing the foot of the bridge project to do some pedestrian guardrails, and they were just completely opposed to it. They say cars run into them, they get dented, and the county's always been reticent to do the pedestrian because of the driveway issue. To me, the pedestrian guardrails, you're always going to have 10% of the knuckleheads that are going to jump over, but 90% of the people are going to flow with that. And I cannot understand why we can't get that done. It's so frustrating, but I think it's worth pursuing.
I think what it comes down to at the end of the day, after they do what they need to do, we need to be vigilant, and it's a public safety on our public. So that's where you make your line in the sand and say, this is what we need to have. But I think it gives us time to develop a plan and a viable solution, a plan A and a B. So when they come back and say, nope, hey, how about this one? I've never been one for saying no. So I'm going to find a way. And that's always kind of in our back of our mind now as we move forward, is always having that second, third, fourth option available. So they're going to say no. But this is why we need it. It's a public safety thing. So.
Well, just to give everyone a heads up, I was just informed that we're about to lose power. They're converting us over from our temporary generator to our FPL power. And so we may have to cut the meeting off here a little short, but Andy's got.
You brought it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff, okay. We're not slowing FPL down. We're,
Nope.
So I told them to keep going. they're going to shut it down at some point within the next 2 hours, but that could be in the next 10 minutes or in the next 120 minutes. We think it's going to be in the next 30 minutes. So it'll only be down a little bit, but it could interrupt a lot of stuff. So we have hot spots for staff, but you just need to be mindful. So it won't be long.
Okay?
Make one more quick comment.
Yes.
So we did take some stuff on ourselves as well, by the way. We asked the county for putting some barrier stanchions up at the intersection where 5th Street is and San Carlos there, where the turn is on the turn. We got no response. So we went to our PW people and said, can we put those in? And he said, they'll be there tomorrow. They got put up tomorrow. They're into the ground. They're adhesive to the ground there. You'll see them, those yellow markers that go up the stanchions. That has stopped our U-turn work tremendously. It stopped our pedestrian crossings there tremendously. And it didn't take that much, didn't cost us much. County DOT looked at them and kept moving, didn't say anything. So to that, it's something that we can
I was
maybe
wondering where they came
direct.
from.
And it was a safety issue. So that's why we did it.
Perfect.
Can we do that all along Estero?
Second that.
Well, we can try unless, if they're, path of least resistance, they don't say anything. Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
I did that
Yeah.
all through high school.
Oh, I'm sure there's a story behind that.
Or more than one.
Right, right. Exactly.
I am.
Does anyone have anything else?
No, I think we got a lot of good information today. I feel we did. And I feel we have a direction now.
Perfect. I'm glad to hear that Tom's going to be part of the meeting, and nothing against you, Jason, but he's,
That's awesome.
you got a lot of other things
Yeah,
going
a lot
on.
of questions, and it's nice to know that you say, oh, we've handled that, or it's in the works. It's in the works. So,
Yeah.
we don't beat a dead horse.
Cool.
Same thing with the exchange of any of our.
Can't hear you. You got to be, you know the rules. You got to,
Getting old, I can't stand up that much.
then keep your mouth shut.
You you can always reach out to us anytime, regardless of who you need. If you need a question answered, Andy, myself, Tom, honestly, yes, we're busy. We're never too busy for the town. We work for the town. So that's our motto. That's the way we run it every single day, from the time we walk in till the time we leave. We work for you. So you have a problem, you have a question, reach out.
Maybe
All
we
right.
need Tom's cell phone.
Yes, I'm going to drop off my card to everybody. And I will leave my personal number as well. So
We better make sure Andy's okay with that first.
He'll be fine.
Charter says you're supposed to go through Andy's, but
Oh, he'll be fine.
if he says it's okay, it's okay.
Okay.
Right, Nancy? Anything else?
No, thank you. We
All right.
really appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead, John.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
A motion is second. We're adjourned at 12:30.